Hey there, Grumpy Old Fart here. This is a compilation video of some of my greatest hits. Hope y'all enjoy them.
Iud artifact, AIUD artifact. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Um, this is a this is a strange one. It was found in 1974 in Romania. It is a 5-pound, 8-inch object of solid aluminum. Now, workers were digging a trench along the Meuse River, and this artifact was found with a couple of mastodon bones. The composition of this was 89% aluminum, with traces of other elements including copper, zinc, lead, cadmium, and nickel. Aluminum of this form is not natural. That was a cat. Aluminum of this form is not natural and wasn't produced in quantity until the 1800s. Now, because it was found alongside these mastodon bones, it is estimated to be at least 11,000 years old. Um, this object looks like a machined part, and it looks like something part of a scoop or maybe part of landing gear or something. I don't know what it is, honestly. You got to check out the picture of it, though. It completely destroys the official archaeological story. This thing is so weird looking and odd. It's one of those oddities. They actually featured it in the TV series Ancient Aliens. Um, there's a man years ago who wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. His name's Michael Cremo, and he highlights a lot of these artifacts that people are finding, and he highlights archaeological digs that they're finding stuff that at depths that shouldn't be. According to the official story, humans are X amount of years old, 5,000 years, whatever, 8,000, and they keep finding stuff at depths that shouldn't be, indicating that humans have been on this planet far longer, far, far longer. This particular item found at depth with mastodon bones says that it has it has to be at least 11,000 years old, and that's how archaeologists, every other archaeological dig is dated. They date an item by what it's found with. So if something is found buried with human bones, then you know it has to be humans had to have, some it, you can gauge how old it is by what's found around it. Well, these items that people are finding, if you haven't read his book Forbidden Archaeology, you need to read it. It's freaking ridiculous, all the stuff they're finding. But they're finding stuff at depths that say that humans have been on this planet for upwards of millions of years. Uh, there's a lot of stuff, and I've done it in some of my other unexplained artifacts videos where people are finding stuff in coal deposits and things like that. Coal takes millions of years to form, hundreds of millions sometimes. They've dated things at 300 million years old. You know, stuff that's man-made. So either somebody really screwed up the archaeological record, or advanced humans were on this earth a long time ago. And I don't know, but we don't know. But the fact that we don't know and they're claiming they know tells you something. Um, Check out my other unexplained artifact videos. You'll see what I'm talking about. My point is, when a scientist tells you they know something for a fact, take a step back, because that's going to change in a year or two. They keep printing new science books every year because stuff keeps changing.
There are things that going on in the world we cannot explain. There are things going on in the world that aren't. It's not normal, okay? And it needs to be explained. The minute the human race says we know everything, we're just going to lay down and die, because that's what we do. We look for stuff that is not explained, and we try to explain it. Well, there's a lot of stuff out there that cannot be explained because there's no explanation for it. If you fit by the official anthropological, archaeological, scientific story, there's stuff that doesn't fit in there. And these people want you to believe it, so they push it. And if things don't make sense, they change it. That's not science. You follow where the facts lead. You don't change the facts to fit your story. Okay, here's some of the artifacts, that don't fit the narrative. There's coins being found all over the world. They found some in France. They found them in Egypt and some other places. These coins have weird pictures on them. Like one coin has an unmistakable visage of one of those little gray aliens. They've got others that show UFOs, classic UFOs hovering above the trees and above the landscape. And these are coins, ancient coins. They're finding in different places. This is not, if it's a joke, it's a hell of a joke, because these things were minted centuries ago. So again, if it's a joke, it's a hell of a joke. If it's a hoax, they plan, I don't know how they would or why they would. The Latin script on one of these coins read "Opportunis adest," which translates to "It's here in due time." I have no idea what the hell that means, but it was written in Latin, so somebody on Earth made the coin. It's not an alien coin per se, but somebody on Earth made it, and they wrote the inscription in Latin. It's here in due time. So does that saying they're going to come back or what? I don't know, but many people believe that this is a clear reference to the aliens' return. Some people believe that these coins are a hoax, but the fact that some of them were retrieved under a home in Egypt in an area that had been untouched for centuries makes the hoax explanation unlikely. If it's a hoax, the hoaxer lived centuries ago. The prevailing theory is that the coins came to Egypt from somewhere in Europe, and probably the same place they found them in France and a few other places. But anyway, they came there before the 17th century and were hidden with these other coins. Now, why anybody would put an alien picture on a coin, 300-400 years ago, is beyond me. But there they are. Okay, this is not we found some coins and we're going to alter one of them. No, they were there. They were found. It's verified. Somebody minted coins that had pictures of aliens and what amounts to flying saucers on these coins 300, 400, 500 years ago. It doesn't make any sense unless they had seen them. You see what I'm saying? It's the only explanation that makes sense. Even if it is a hoax, say it is a hoax. Say nobody saw aliens. Somebody had to be talking about them. Somebody had to have said in their mind, "Hey, we'll do a weird looking picture of a weird looking person with these big eyes and blah blah blah," and it happens to look exactly like a gray alien. That's asinine. Somebody saw them. That's all I'm saying. If you get a chance to check these out, I recommend it because it's an interesting story. But my point is, somebody minted these coins. They either somebody 400 or 500 years ago, whatever, had a significant imagination, a serious imagination, or to make a hoax, or they printed on these coins what they saw. Here we go. In Cusco, Peru, Cusco, C-U-S-C-O, Cusco, Peru, they found what the people believe is a mummified hand. And initially it was thought to be a hoax, but it turns out it is organic. It's a real living thing. You got to see it. This hand is tiny, but the fingers are really long, 8 inches long, and it has 3 fingers. So it's a 3-fingered hand. The fingers are 8 inches long, and it looks freaky. It seems very natural. Like I said, it is organic, so it's not a hoax. The hand has been verified as not human. It does have real skin and bones. DNA tests, are ongoing. Experts in various fields are debating the authenticity of the find. And right now, there's a lot of people who are saying it's a hoax, but I don't see how it could be. It has DNA. So it is a living being. It if this is not a hand, I don't know what the hell it could be. If you haven't seen the pictures, check it out. It's ridiculous. It looks like an alien hand. Possible explanations that they're coming up with. They could think it. Get my words right. Use your words, Lynn. They think it may be a fossilized flipper of an extinct fish. They think it could be a whale flipper. In Peru. They think it could be an undiscovered ancestor or a distant relative of man, meaning somebody in one of our ancestors, ancient times, hundreds of them, maybe even thousands of years ago, had 3 fingers with really long fingers. That doesn't seem likely. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't alive back then. I can't say. And we're finding a lot of stuff from back in the day that doesn't make any sense. But, well, okay. Let me rephrase that. It doesn't make sense if you listen to the scientists with their official stories. But there have been times when information has been fudged to fit the official narrative. So we don't know what could be back then. We don't know. We just don't know. It's that simple. There's a lot of stuff going on that we don't know about. And apparently this is one of them. I can kind of sort of see the fossilized flipper thing, a whale flipper or whatever. I don't know what the bones in a whale's flipper look like. But if that's it, it's a tiny little whale, because as I understand it, whales get huge. I don't know. But if this is not a humanoid hand of some kind, then it looks like a humanoid hand. I'm sorry, but it does. I wasn't really sure what to call this one. I did one recently, Unexplained Mystery, because it was about an airplane that landed with skeletons on it, and it was not really a phenomenon because it only happened once. This only happened once. But it's not about. I guess this could be considered a mystery, but it also falls in line with the idea that ancient peoples were more advanced than we give them credit for. Just let me give the background here, and we'll go from there. In 1972, a French factory imported uranium ore from a city called Okla in Africa's Gabon, Gabon, Gabon region. The ore was examined, and it was found that all of the ore had been previously extracted. All of the uranium ore had been previously extracted. Scientists from across the world were brought in to investigate the situation. They discovered that the site of origin for all this ore had to have had a huge nuclear reactor. This reactor had to have been 1.8 billion years old. And the reactor apparently operated for about 500,000 years. And this sounds crazy. It really does. But this was been investigated by some top people, including a Nobel Prize winning scientist named Glenn T. Seaborg. Now, he claims that this nuclear reactor was not a natural occurrence. It was definitely man-made. It had to have existed for this to happen, because the conditions needed for uranium to react are very specific and cannot be natural. It requires water that is pure, more pure than occurs in nature, and it requires uranium-235, which the specific occurrences have to happen to create uranium-235. Advanced beings had to be present to create this nuclear reactor. This, again, couldn't have been natural. This was definitely man-made. Sentient beings had to have created this. The fact that this happened 1.8 billion years ago boggles the mind. We think of humanity as starting 100,000 years ago, in that range. And as primitives coming out of the caves with a stick or whatever. 1.8 billion years ago, somebody built a nuclear reactor, and it's there. It was there, and it was active for for 500,000 years, half a million years. This has been investigated. It's been verified. It's not a hoax. It's not a cheap. It's not designed for attention. This was accidentally discovered. You have a French company received ore and found that there was something weird about it. So they sent scientists to investigate, and they verified the findings. So, and these scientists are from all around the world. It's not a localized event where you have one guy making the claim. These are scientists from everywhere. There was I did a video on Michael Cremo's book. I forget what it's called. It's about advanced civilizations, ancient civilizations. This particular event here lends credence to his theories. As crackpot as they sound, there's something to it. Again, we can't say what, but there's something to it. Every time you think, well, that couldn't possibly be, you find something else that proves it. It's just a matter of, looking at the evidence. And nowadays, a lot of people aren't even looking at the evidence. You mention this stuff and people go, oh, that's just crazy, and they dismiss it. The guy's got a whole book full of this stuff. Fossils and artifacts being found at depths that shouldn't be. In the 1800s, miners drilling into a hill, and they'll find a pocket of artifacts and stuff in there that nobody's ever been to, and the mountain was formed millions of years ago. There is something to this. We just don't know what. But because these theories are dismissed as, crackpot or hoax or whatever, crazy, nobody with any serious backing is looking into it, and we need to look into it. It's how can you say we don't know and then just leave it at that? We have to find out. Of the Kosovo transformer. And no, I'm not talking about a robot that changes shape. No, that's not what I'm talking about. In 2017, photographer and researcher Ismet Smiley, Smaili, Smiley, whatever, discovered an object in the mountains in Kosovo. It resembles an electrical transformer. The problem is, it's mostly made of stone. There is modern copper wiring in a coil type arrangement set into the stone. The coils are fused into the stone and are actually part of the stone. They weren't added later. They're actually part of the stone. It's got a rounded shaped stone with a copper electrical coil integrated within it. Okay. Convex bands carved into the stone which resemble insulators. On the other side of the object, there are 4 symmetrically engraved circle holes which resemble bolt holes, as if this is set to be mounted onto something with bolts. And this is definitely not natural. It is clearly some kind of a generator, but and the scientific testing says that it is 20,000 years old. This is not normal. Nobody can explain this yet. The guy who is in possession of it, it's been tested, and that's how they come up with this 20,000-year-old mark, but he doesn't want to send it for more testing because he's afraid he won't get it back. That's got to be something to do with the government there. But my point is, this thing was found, it's photographed, it's been scientifically tested, it does in fact exist. It is a hunk of stone that looks like it's like a generator. It's got copper coiling embedded in the stone, fused to the stone. Not just, added on later, but actually part of it. It looks like a generator or a transformer of some kind. But again, 20,000 years old. 20,000 years ago, humans had no business with copper wiring coils like that. There was no reason for that. They didn't have it. When people look at, oh, it's some kind of a hoax, explain it. It can't be a hoax. It exists. If somebody made it today, it can't be. I mean, how do you fuse copper into the stone? I don't know how to do that. I imagine there might be a way, but I don't know how to do it. It's crazy. And people are finding artifacts like this all over the world. They found bells and other items embedded in coal deposits that are millions of years old. They found all kinds of stuff. I've done videos on them. Go check out my Unexplained Artifacts videos. They're crazy. A lot of it's just crazy. And there's a man named Michael Cremo. He wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. That book is well worth the read. I've seen videos on it. I have not read it myself, but I would very much like to. Michael Cremo theorizes that there was advanced civilizations back in the day, much more advanced than what we give them credit for. Stuff like this lends credence to that. Okay? The fact that mainstream science doesn't try to investigate and explain this, they just ignore it, that tells you something. That's all I'm saying. If you get a chance to do some little more research on this, the man's name who found it is Ismet, Ismet. His last name is, I guess, Smaili, Smaili. I'm doing him a disservice by not pronouncing his name properly, and I apologize. And now we're going to do the Antikythera mechanism. For those of you who don't know, some sponge divers off the coast of an island, a Greek island called Antikythera. I've heard two different stories, 1900 or 1904. So I'm not sure which one that is, because I read multiple articles trying to get all the information I could, and they had different dates. So I don't know. At any rate, it's one of those two. They were sponge diving off this Greek island, and they found this device in an old shipwreck. Now, this shipwreck, they estimate, was about 2,000 years old. This device is bronze. It's like a clockwork thing with gears and everything in it, and it's got dials on it. I mean, it's pretty intricate. It was been dated between 2,000 and 2,200 years old. This device calculates advanced astronomical phenomena with precision. Okay. It is a primitive computer calculator. This thing has gears like a clock. Okay, if you've ever seen, pictures or whatever of those Swiss watches where they had all the gears and everything for Swiss perfection. Well, this thing looks like that. It's got gears in there. It's got dials where you can adjust what you're looking to find. And this thing predicts lunar and other stellar bodies in space, where they're going to be at a certain time, that kind of thing. And it's very intricate. This is really, really intricate. So, someone built a complex device out of bronze with gears and dials that works like a computer to calculate sophisticated astronomical events with precision. And they built this 200 years before the birth of Christ. Yeah. So, something's not right there. According to our scientists, these people barely had the wheel. They barely had steel, if that. I want to say it was the Bronze Age, Iron Age, whatever. But my point is, these are primitive people, and according to our scientists, they're primitive, and not much more than hunter-gatherers. And they shouldn't have been able to do this. This doesn't make any sense. This thing is more than 2,000 years old, and it works like a precision Swiss instrument. So, the way I see it, either our ancestors were far more advanced than what our scientists are telling us, what they believe, or they had some kind of help. And I'm not saying aliens, I don't know. Maybe there was an advanced civilization here that somehow went away. Maybe they're in hiding. Hell, maybe they're under the ice of the Antarctic, who knows. My point is, we obviously don't know everything. And when scientists say they do, you got to take a step back, because these people obviously don't know everything. I made a joke a while back. Science books keep updating every year because they keep finding out new stuff. Here you go. This is one of the things. Either way, it's evidence that there's a lot that these scientists simply do not know.
The Betz sphere. For those of you who don't know, the Betz sphere is a sphere. It's about the size of a bowling ball. It's silver, shiny silver. It was found March 27th, 1974. It was found on Fort George Island, Florida. The Betz family was investigating a small brush fire near their home, near their residence. And they found this sphere in that area. It, like I said, it's about the size of a bowling ball. It's solid silver. It's very smooth, except for it's got a triangle symbol etched in it, I guess, for lack of a better word. But it's, other than that, it's completely smooth. And people have tried to say it was a check valve or some other machined part. They said it was produced by Bell and Howell and fell off of a truck or whatever. But none of that really holds water, because a check valve can't do what this thing does. Nobody can explain how it does this. It reacts to music. It makes a noise on its own, a thrumming sound. It rolls around and changes direction on its own. So you can set it down and it'll start rolling this way and then change direction, go that way. Nobody can explain how that happens. When you shake it and place it on the ground, it begins to move on its own. So, yeah, that's not a machine part. That's something else. We don't know what that is, but nobody has been able to completely explain away all of its oddities or prove where it came from. Now, I don't want to hazard a guess, because I've not seen it and I've not been around it. I can't tell you, hey, this is what it was. I can't tell you nothing about it. All I'm going by is what the articles say. So if anybody has an idea what it could be, put it in the comments, please. I'll be glad to read them. But the fact that this thing reacts to music tells you something. It's not normal. You put a bowling ball on the ground, see what that does. Put a metal bowling ball on the ground, see what that does. Play the guitar or something around that, and see what happens. Because I guarantee you the bowling ball will not react to music. But apparently this thing does. It reacts to music, and it makes its own music, kind of like a thrumming sound. Okay. But yeah, like I said, people try to explain it away, but they can't. Nothing makes sense with this thing. There is no explanation for what this thing can do. So, if anybody has an idea or has any more information, something that I missed, please put it in the comments. I'll be glad to read them. But unless somebody can explain how a sphere found in a fire can react and can produce music and reacts to music, external music sources like guitars and things like that, that's one up on me, because I can't do it.
You're gonna love this. The Black Knight satellite. I thought this was just a load of horse hooey, and then I read a number of articles on it that apparently verify the story. So I figured I'd share it with you folks in case you guys haven't heard of it. According to the articles that I read, the Black Knight satellite is real. It does exist. It is an artificial satellite. It's caused major media interest since the late 1950s and has become one of the most talked about objects in space. It was first thought to be a Russian spy satellite. The Black Knight satellite has gripped the interest of millions of people worldwide, and I saw a picture of it. It looks like a big rock. So it doesn't look like anything spectacular, other than the fact that it's kind of like an arrowhead-looking thing shaped, pointed down. I don't know. According to monitoring agencies around the world, the Black Knight satellite has been transmitting radio signals for over 50 years now. Since the 1930s, astronomers worldwide have been reporting strange radio signals which allegedly come from this Black Knight satellite. In 1957, Dr. Luis Corrales of the Communications Ministry in Venezuela photographed the Black Knight satellite while taking pictures of Sputnik 2 as it passed over Caracas. So he's taking pictures of Sputnik 2, and he got the Black Knight as well. In 1957, this unknown object was seen shadowing the Sputnik 1 spacecraft. According to reports, this unidentified object was in polar orbit. Time magazine wrote about this satellite on the 7th of March in 1960. I'm sorry this information is a little disjointed. It came from several sources, so bear with me. In the 1960s, the Black Knight satellite was located once again in polar orbit. Now, polar orbits are often used for Earth mapping, Earth observation, capturing the Earth as time passes from one point, and reconnaissance satellites. This would put the Black Knight in the category of an observational satellite. Why it's there, we don't know. But if it's if somebody put it there on purpose, they put it there disguised as a hunk of rock. If it's in a polar orbit, something's keeping it there. That's all I'm saying. In 1963, Gordon Cooper was launched into space, and on his last orbit, he reported seeing a glowing green object in front of his capsule in the distance moving towards his spacecraft. The Mushea tracking station in Australia, which Cooper reported the object to, picked up this unidentified object on radar traveling east to west. It was the ham radio operator who apparently decoded a series of signals received from this satellite. And according to the decode and he interpreted it as a star chart centered on the Epsilon Bootes, Bootes star system. According to the decoded message, the Black Knight satellite originated from the Epsilon Bootes star system 13,000 years ago. Now we can't say to the veracity of that decoding or even the message, because it was a ham radio operator, so we don't know how accurate he was. We don't know if he actually knew what he was doing. We don't know. I mean, I'm not saying he's hoaxing it, but he may have made a mistake. We don't know. On August 23rd, 1954, the technology magazine Aviation Week and Space Technology released a story about the Black Knight satellite that angered the Pentagon, who are trying to keep the information secret. So it's one thing to say we have a satellite. We have some. By satellite, I mean it's an orbiting hunk of rock. Like the moon is a satellite of Earth. This is a satellite, and it's one thing to say it's up there. But when they're releasing information that the Pentagon wants kept secret, the Pentagon obviously knows something we don't. That's all I'm saying. This is an unexplained artifact. We don't know why it's there. We don't know how it keeps a polar orbit. I'm not sure if a natural object can keep a polar orbit. I don't know if it can or not. But if it can't, that would kind of point to it being not natural. And if it's not natural, somebody put it there. And if somebody put it there and it wasn't us, the COSO, C-O-S-O, COSO artifact. A little bit of context here. In the winter of 1961, a group of people were in the mountains of California near Olancha, O-L-A-N-C-H-A, and they discovered a rock that they thought it was a geode, so they figured they'd take it back and put it in their store. The finders were Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell, M-I-K-E-S-E-L-L. They thought it was a geo. They were going to take it back to their store. They broke it open. Inside the rock was an object that seemed to be made of white porcelain with a shaft of shiny metal in the center. This object has a tiny spring at one end, and some people are saying it looks very much like a modern-day spark plug. This object is obviously man-made, but the rock which it was found was 500,000 years old. What the hell would a spark plug be doing in a 500,000-year-old rock? It doesn't make any sense. This obviously has sophisticated human manufacture, and 500,000 years ago, I don't think there were humans that could do that. At least not that I'm aware of. So far, this artifact is unexplained, and there are some people who are claiming that it is a spark plug and it was accidentally dropped out there. Well, that's all well and good, but how did it get inside a 5,000-year-old rock? 500,000-year-old rock. That's 500,000 years old. You know, if you're walking along and see a spark plug laying on the ground, hey, somebody dropped it, no problem. You see a rock, you break it open, there's a spark plug inside, that's a whole different critter. You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make any sense. Not one bit of sense at all. People want to explain these things away like they're oh, there's an easy explanation. Fine. What is it? Silence. Because they don't have one. How did it get inside the rock? Again, if it's laying there, that's one thing, but inside the rock, that's a whole different critter. It's like these. I did a video on the Klerksdorp spheres. It'll be coming out soon. That's all well and good. Well, they're manufactured rocks. Oh, no big deal. How they get inside rock that's 2.8 billion years old. I want to say it was 2.8 billion. Yeah, 2.8 billion years old. It's stupid. Miners are bringing them out. You know, people go, well, it could have been naturally formed. Great. How to get the etching on there? You know what I'm saying? People are so busy trying to explain this stuff away. They don't want to admit anything that doesn't fit inside their little paradigm. And a spark plug inside a rock 500,000 years ago doesn't fit their paradigm. Okay? It doesn't. It blows it out of the water. Just like Göbekli Tepe or the big foundation stones that I talked about in the three. I want to say it's the Three Sisters, and at Göbekli or at Baalbek, Lebanon. Excuse me. It's been a while since I've done that video. Bear with me. My point is, you find things like this. People find stuff like this all the time that cannot be explained, and people want to just, oh, it's nothing. It's just an anomaly. Jim Marrs had a wonderful saying. The word anomaly is scientific jargon for WTF, because they don't know. And if they don't know, maybe somebody should try to figure this stuff out, because obviously what we're being taught is not the truth. It's not accurate. It may be as accurate as we know, but when you find stuff like this, if you found one item that was out of place, you know, maybe it fell in a hole or something. But the amount of things that are finding now that are out of place is ridiculous. I do videos on them quite frequently. Go check some of my Unexplained Phenomena videos out. Things aren't as people say. Museums have been caught falsifying labels on artifacts. That's all I'm saying. It's unexplained. We probably need to figure out what the hell it is and why, how it got there. Crystal skulls. I have heard stories about these things for years, and a lot of it seems really far-fetched. When I was doing research for this, I read article after article after article, and a lot of it conflicted. A lot of it's been very... I don't really know the word. One article will say this, and then the next article will debunk it and say this, and the next article will debunk it and say this. It took me... I've been meaning to do this particular video for months, and I kept finding different articles that said different things.
So I had to sit down and put all these articles together and figure out what they didn't debunk. Out of all these articles, this is what they didn't debunk. This is what I'm going to go through. And I know a lot of people have heard a lot of different things about these. Bear with me. I'm not saying you're not right, but this is all that I can prove that people are saying that hasn't been debunked. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I can't say one way or the other. Okay. So if you know more about this than what I'm going to say, bully for you. Again, I'm not disputing it. I'm just saying this is what I could piece together from all the articles that wasn't conflicting. Okay. All right, here we go. Crystal skulls. Archaeologists and other people have been finding ornate and beautifully carved crystal skulls throughout Mexico and Central and South America. And from what I can tell, in all, 13 of these skulls have been found. Possibly more, but I know of 13. Many people theorize these skulls were religious artifacts or even simple art objects. And we don't know. We honestly don't know. Regardless of their historical function, they have been dated between 1,000 and 36,000 years old. People have come out and said that a lot of these were hoaxes. And again, I can't say one way or the other. But if they're dated at 1,000 years ago, that's a hell of a hoax. 36,000 years ago, you're bordering on insanity when you're talking about a hoax. All right? That's all I'm saying. What makes these objects unexplained is how they were constructed. These are all made of quartz. And for those of you who don't know, quartz is a very fragile type of rock. It's crystalline, it's easy to fracture. On these crystal skulls, there are no fractures. There's none. They're perfect. There's no tool marks. You can't tell where somebody was sanding it or carving it or anything. Nothing. They're perfect. All of them are perfect. They seem to defy logic. Nobody can explain how they were carved without shattering or fracturing the quartz crystal. So, there are people today who are claiming that you cannot carve them using modern technology. How did they carve them up to 36,000 years ago? It boggles the mind. Many people, now we're going to get into some supernatural stuff here. So, okay. Many people have claimed that they are either sentient or maybe some kind of telepathic link to some extra-dimensional intelligence. There are reports that exist of some of these skulls possessing people's minds and somehow communicating with people telepathically. Don't know if that's true. The reports suggest it, and they're saying this is what happened, but from what I can tell, there's no proof of any of this happening. So I'm leaving that up to you guys. Some of the theories of how these skulls came to be involve the old favorite aliens. That last Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls, I think it was called. The one that took place in the 50s. That was the thing, extra-dimensional aliens, I think they were. This deals, the theories here are the aliens, the extra-dimensional visitors. Some people say it took magic to carve these things. Some people say that they were grown like this. How you would grow quartz crystal in a specific form, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible or not. But regardless, many people claim that these are a hoax. They cannot explain how this hoax is perpetrated. If there's a crystal object and you cannot tell how it was made, you have to discount the hoax part, because how did the hoaxers make it? That's all I'm saying. And again, these may very well be a hoax. I don't know. But if it's a hoax, again, it's a hell of a hoax, because 1, 1,000 years to 36,000 years ago. 2, nobody knows how they made them, and we can't make them like that today with modern technology. And 3, there's all kinds of other reports where they were found all over Central and South America, and maybe other parts of the world. Okay, I found reports of that, but I can't verify it, and other reports have discounted it, so I don't know where these things were actually found. So my point is, there's a lot about these we don't know, and what we do know defies explanation. Crystal weapons. I did a video a while back about the crystal skulls. Go and check that video out. For the most part, crystal weaponry is relegated to the realm of science fiction and fantasy lore. Most crystals are not suitable for making into weaponry because the crystal is too brittle. The harder crystals, diamonds for example, are generally too expensive to turn into weapons, and primitive man really didn't know how to shape them that well. When some archaeologist digs up a dagger fashioned from pure diamond, I'm sure we'll all hear about it. There's a site in Spain called Valencia de la Concepción. It has 25 tombs within the site, and a plethora of crystal weapons were uncovered in the various tombs within. These include a crystal dagger, a dagger blade, and the blade, and numerous arrowheads and other implements. So they found a dagger blade, a buttload of arrowheads, and a bunch of other stuff. Nobody knows what kind of crystal was used or how they fashioned these weapons without cracking them. This is very similar to the crystal skulls. Nobody knows where the crystal comes from. Nobody knows why they used this crystal instead of flint, which is much more common and was plentiful in the area. Here's the kicker. Crystal implements like these are found in various dig sites across southern Iberia, but not in burial sites later than 3000 BC. We're going to get into that. But first, if you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you would hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on social media, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all of my books there. I like to think I write good stories that make you think. I wrote a 3-book science fiction western series called Drifters. I wrote a fun story about a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out. It's called The House Off Farrago Road. I wrote a political fantasy called The Righteous President, and I've got 2 so far. I'm working on more. The first one is Vanguard 1. The second one is Task Force Terminus. They're a study of humanity from an alien perspective. It's futuristic science fiction space warfare. Hope you get them, and I hope you like them. Now, on with crystal weapons. Evidently, the methods and skills for shaping these crystal objects has been long lost. There are no records or stories of who fashioned them or why. Was there an ancient civilization which predates humans on this planet which had this skill? Who knows? Theories are plentiful. What we do know is that no tomb after 3000 BC has been found with any of these in them. So apparently the ancient peoples knew a lot about it. An interesting coincidence is that the time period in which these objects were fashioned is also the time when many megalithic sites were erected, which, again, begs a lot of questions. Many of those megalithic sites are unexplained. Nobody knows how they were built. Nobody knows how these weapons were forged, were fashioned out of these crystals. Nobody knows how or why these crystal implements were fashioned. It's something to consider. These crystal weapons don't seem to be religious in nature. It's possible, I guess, that the primitives who fashioned the things thought that the crystal held some kind of magic, but who knows? Nobody knows what kind of crystal was used, so nobody knows how durable they are. I can't see anyone actually testing one of these priceless artifacts, so don't plan on any kind of a clarification on this point anytime soon. There are those who seem to think that these items were forged in the mythical kingdom of Atlantis. At this point, I suppose it's possible. That would presuppose, of course, that Atlantis did in fact exist. Who am I to say it didn't? The fact that all of the tombs these items are found in predate 3000 BC says that someone had the skill to do this before then, but it was somehow lost, or the people who knew it went away somewhere. Were they humans, or was there a species here back then that lived alongside human beings? Or maybe maybe they predated human beings. Who knows? What all of this boils down to is that someone who lived over 5,000 years ago had a skill to fashion these things, and we don't know who they were, why they did it, or how they did it. We cannot even tell you the type of crystal that they fashioned these weapons from, or where they got it from. The fact that our modern archaeology and other sciences are clueless about these things says that maybe they aren't so learned after all. One of the things that bugs me is when scientists hide stuff. They lie or whatever. There have been museums caught changing dates on artifacts to fit the official archaeological narrative. I talk about this book a lot. It's called Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo, and it is an absolutely wonderful book. It's got a lot of eye-opening information in there, jaw-dropping information, but it's not. It's not. It wasn't really sanctioned by mainstream science. And the guy who wrote it, Michael Cremo, he's not an author, he's a scientist, so it reads a lot like a technical manual, a scientific journal, a lot of technical jargon. It's a tough read, but it will make your jaw drop. The whole idea that there's a narrative that they're pushing in science is beyond belief. Science should follow the facts. You don't have an end point and try to get there. You find the facts and go where they lead. That's science. Our mainstream archaeology and anthropology and like that, they're not doing that. They have an agenda, and it's infuriating. The fact that we don't even know what kind of crystal these weapons were made from, it boggles the mind. It just boggles the mind. There's something going on that we're not being told. It's that simple. And when scientists say they don't know something, that's embarrassing because they're scientists. They should try to figure it out, you know? Anyway, and we should all know the knowledge should be for everybody.
Dorchester pot. And if you've never heard of this, you're going to like this. On June 7th, 1851, a very interesting article appeared in the Scientific American. An object that resembled a silver zinc vase inlaid with fine silver in the form of a vine. It was embedded within 15 feet of solid sedimentary rock. This relic was freed from the rock by blasting, which inadvertently broke the object into two pieces. So they were blasting rock, this thing came out and it was broken in two. When you put it back together, it formed a bell-shaped vessel, 4.5 inches high, 6.5 inches at the base, and 2.5 inches at the top. It was about 1/8 of an inch thickness. Okay, so it looks like an ornate vase, a vase. If your nose is in the air, it's a vase. If you're like us, it's a vase. What I like about this though is the sides depict 6 figures of a flower or bouquet, beautifully inlaid with pure silver. Around the lower part is inlaid a vine or a wreath, also in silver. So it's inlaid in silver. That's some quality craftsmanship there. It's very, very cunning workmanship. I saw a picture of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. You got to check it out. Now here's the kicker. The stone that they blasted, that this thing came out of, is estimated at several million years of age. So this thing was put in, it wasn't like, stuck in the stone. The stone formed around it millions of years ago, several million years ago. Workmanship like that shouldn't have been possible. There ain't no cavemen doing that shit. Okay? I mean, this is some serious stuff at this point. I talk about this guy a lot in a lot of these unexplained artifact videos because he makes a valid, cogent point. His name is Michael Cremo. He wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. Michael Cremo makes the assertion that human beings have been on this planet far longer than what the mainstream science, mainstream archaeology, and mainstream anthropology will admit to. And they're changing information to fit their paradigm, to fit their story. That's not science. You follow the facts to where the story is, to the truth. And whatever the truth is, you report that truth. You don't find the truth and then change it to fit the facts that you want to. You don't change facts to fit your story. The facts lead to the truth. And these people apparently aren't doing that, because stuff like this should be reported on. Anthropologists and archaeologists and historians should be going apeshit over this, but they're not. Why? Because they're not allowed to. People who report on this aren't on this kind of thing are being censored. They're being ousted. They're being disincluded from the scientific community. So that right there tells you something. If you've not seen this pot, it's called the Dorchester, Dorcester, Dorchester pot. Look it up. This is a bell-shaped vase, and it's inlaid with silver, and it's gorgeous. You got to see it. It's beautiful. The workmanship on this, if the theory behind the rock, the dating holds, this thing was made several million years ago, and that shouldn't be possible. The French tubes. For those of you who have never heard of this, you're gonna love this. In 1968, a number of semi-ovoid metallic tubes were discovered in Cretaceous chalk, that's Aptian chalk, at a quarry in Saint-Jean-de-Levay in France. I hope I said that right. So pardon me if I messed up on the pronunciation there. Saint-Jean, Jean, de Levay, Livet, in France. Okay, now these are metallic tubes. They're all identical in shape, but they vary in width and length. This chalk that they were embedded in, that they were dug out of, is 60. It's estimated at 65 million years old. So 65 million years ago, this was laying on the ground, and it got covered up and embedded in chalk and blah 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 blah. And then we found it 65 million years later. Yeah. The objects are reportedly under scientific study, but nothing further really has been reported that I could find. This is just incredible. These are metallic man-made tubes. Somebody forged these. They cast them. They're either die cast or forged or whatever. They're not natural. That's for sure. Okay, they are not natural. But they were found in chalk that's 65 million years old. They were dug out of the chalk. Nobody dug in there and put that there. Okay, that was left there a long damn time ago. That chalk is estimated 65 million years old. There were no humans here 65 million years ago, at least according to the mainstream science. I'm going to remind you of something here. There's a man named Michael Cremo. He wrote a book named It's called Forbidden Archaeology. He claims that objects that are found which do not fit the scientific and evolutionary narrative are ignored. He also claims that museums have changed the dates on artifacts to fit the current narrative. So, as I recall, it was something like a 6 million year old artifact, and they changed it to be 60,000 years old. So at least it could be man-made, as it were. The problem is, they're finding so many of these objects that are they're at depths and in substances that took millions of years to form, and I don't see how that could be. That object was put there 65 million years ago. Those tubes are 65 million years old. Okay. Who was there to forge those? Who was there to create those? They are man-made. They're not natural. Somebody had to make those back then. Or, we got some options here. We got time travelers or aliens. Take your pick. According to the scientific narrative, humans weren't here. At least not, at any kind of what we would recognize as humans. So who made them? Who dropped them? How'd they get there? Unexplained artifacts. There's more than what they know. They think they know everything, but they don't. And there's more to this whole artifact situation than what they're willing to admit. The Fuente Magna. But first, show you this neat shirt that my wife made for me. She does all kinds of neat things for me. I love the hell out of her. She's awesome. If you haven't checked out her YouTube channel, it's called Stuff and Other Things. The picture's a black and white horse, the horse from Animal Farm. So go check that out. She's got some really cool videos on mythology and things like that. So my son also does some stuff on his channel, Arcane Gaming. It's got kind of a white SCP sigil. I'm not sure exactly what that is. I don't do the SCPs like he does. Anyway, on to the video. For those of you who don't know, the Fuente Magna has been called the Rosetta Stone of the Americas. It was found in 1958, and it's essentially a large stone bowl, pot, a baked stone pot, bowl, whatever you want to call it. It was found in Bolivia. The inscriptions all over the bowl are in 2 different languages. Cuneiform, which is ancient Sumerian, and another language called Pukara, Pukara, which is pre-Tiwanaku. Sorry if I'm getting these names wrong. Bear with me. Now, this means that the ancient Sumerians may have been world travelers. The cuneiform was the language of the ancient Sumerians in ancient Mesopotamia about 3500 BCE. That's 3,500 years, as I understand it, 3,500 years before Christ. Pukara is a pre-Columbian culture at approximately 1800 BC, which is 1,800 years before Christ. For these 2 cultures to have been present together, okay, means that that the Sumerians rather traveled from the Middle East to South America approximately 2,000 years before Christ. That's just ridiculous. It's unheard of. There have been some relics and some writings found in North America that are ancient Hebrew, which, as I understand it, comes from the same area, and it's, pre-Christ, as it were. Phoenicians, I think ancient Phoenician, I think it was, as I recall. But this bowl, if it's, it just blows everything out of the water. For the ancient Sumerians from Mesopotamia to have traveled by boat, either through the Mediterranean or around Africa, or even the other way for that matter, all the way around the world, and ended up in South America prior to, at 2,000 years before Christ, is ridiculous. It blows the entire the current scientific narrative out of the water. As I understand it, they're finding more and more evidence that the oceans, how was it put? There was an archaeologist that people kind of think is a crackpot. I can't remember his name. I want to say it's David Hatcher Childress, but don't quote me on that one. But they think he's kind of a crackpot. But he appears on Ancient Aliens and a bunch of other stuff, so people kind of take him with a grain of salt. But there's more and more evidence to support the theory that this guy has, that the ancient waterways weren't boundaries. Instead, they were roads. People were on boats sailing around the world. He apparently has found evidence of Egyptians in North America, which, again, blows the narrative right out of the water. All of this stuff, if you found one thing that was out of place, well, maybe they did some trading or whatever. Oh, look, they got this old bowl. Let's take it over to South America. And, this old bowl's 3,000 years old, and then 1,000 years ago they took it and put it in South America. You could see, if you found one or two things like that, yeah, okay, fine, it's an anomaly, no big deal. But they're finding more and more things that point to ancient civilizations that were much more advanced than what we're led to believe. They're finding all kinds of artifacts that shouldn't exist from way, way, way back. Michael Cremo wrote his book Forbidden Archaeology about these artifacts and other things that they're finding at depths and in materials that shouldn't be. Again, if you found one or two, I could see a way to explain it. But as I understand it, they're finding so many of them that people are having a hard time explaining them. Well, maybe if you have a theory and it's an accepted theory, but then you keep finding evidence to disprove that theory, maybe the theory's wrong. The genetic disc. For those of you who have never heard of this, I had never heard of this before either until just last week. So I did a little bit of research, and here we go. The genetic disc is a relic that should not exist but does. It may very well rewrite ancient history and the beginnings of humanity. Grab a quick drink of coffee. The disc is carved from lyddite. It is just over 10.5 inches across and weighs in at almost 2.5 pounds. The disc was originally discovered in Colombia by Professor Jamie, Jamie, it's Jamie or Jaime Gutierrez. Pardon, I'm probably butchering that. But it was discovered in 1964. The disc is over 6,000 years old. Okay, 6,000 years old. Keep that number in mind. And also keep the lyddite in mind. We're going to talk about that. The carvings on the disc depict biological details of human growth from sperm. It includes, the male reproductive organs, the female reproductive organs, and it depicts the biological details of human growth from sperm to fertilization to the growing embryo to several sizes of the human fetus, etc., all the way to a final picture of a little child. Okay? The depictions include sperm without let me try to say this word right, spermatozoids, and sperm with spermatozoids. So it's with and without the spermatozoids. Now, here's the kicker. Spermatozoids were not discovered until 1677. How did these people know to carve them 6,000 years ago? It doesn't make any sense. Most of the process of human life depicted on both sides of this disc are only observed today by doctors with specialized equipment. This equipment did not exist 6,000 years ago. Someone had access to microscopes and other such specialized equipment and had studied human reproductive biology 6,000 years ago. Aside from all that, 6,000 years ago, lyddite could only be found across the world from Colombia in the Indian Ocean, there in Malaysia. Yeah, so somebody traveled, that disc traveled away, so at least the lyddite did. We don't know who carved it, but the lyddite had to come from there. Also, 6,000 years ago, humans did not possess any tools capable of carving lyddite. Remember, 6,000 years ago is 4,000 years before Christ walked the earth. So 4,000 years before Jesus Christ walked the earth, somebody got this lyddite and either brought it to Colombia and carved it, or carved it and then brought it to Colombia. Either way, 4,000 years before Christ, this thing happened. Lyddite has a layered structure, and first contact with any cutting tool tends to shatter the mineral. We had no tool, human beings had no tools capable of carving this lyddite 6,000 years ago. It was not possible. So, we're left with a serious conundrum. Anthropology and archaeology says that 6,000 years ago, this disc was impossible to produce, and nobody had the medical knowledge to create the carvings and reliefs on the surface of the disc at that time. Yet, we know they did. Either mainstream science is lying to us again, or they're idiots.
or these primitive cultures had help, or an advanced civilization existed that we are unaware of. Now, I talk about this guy's book a lot. His name is Michael Cremo, and he wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. Anybody who's interested in these out of place artifacts, they're called OOPARTs, 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 out of place artifacts. Anybody who's interested in those, you've this book Forbidden Archaeology, you have got to get it and read it. I have it over there on my bookshelf. I'm still trying to get through it. Now I'll warn you here. Michael Cremo is a scientist. He's technically an author because he wrote the book, but he's not it's not an easy read. It reads like a medical tech journal, like a medical journal of some kind. I mean, it uses a lot of terminology and stuff like that. So, and it's not meant as entertainment. It's meant as informative. It's like a documentary instead of a TV show. Okay. It's not a sitcom. It's a documentary. I'm just saying. However, the information contained in that book is prime. It is priceless. If you're interested in out of place artifacts and how ancient people did things, and nobody can explain how they did them, you've got to read this Forbidden Archaeology. The sheer number of archaeological and anthropological faux pas on the part of mainstream science is breathtakingly staggering. You giant implements. Before I get into this video, however, I'd like to tell you about a new book that I just got published called The House Off Farrago Road. It is available on Amazon.com. The author's name is H.L. Anderson. It's there along with my other books, Drifters, the 1, 2, and 3, The Righteous President, and Vanguard 1. Forgot the name of my own book. It's amazing. Anyway, Farrago Road, the House Off Farrago Road is just a fun story about a house where the denizens are not quite normal. Mythological creatures and supernatural forces commingle with modern-day law enforcement and the criminal underworld. If the quirky weird piques your interest, check out The House Off Farrago Road. All right, on with the video. I've done videos, this is on giant implements. I've done videos on megalithic structures and giants. Check them out. Giants would be one way to explain the construction of such massive megalithic structures. In this video, I'd like to discuss some evidence suggesting that giants were indeed real. There are artifacts being found all over the globe which are far too large to be used by normal human beings. The first one I'd like to discuss, there's at least 3 of them, the Minoan axes. They were found on the island of Crete. These axes are far too large to be wielded by any human being. They're double-bladed axes resembling the classic battle axes, except they're freaking huge. Archaeologists claim that these are agricultural implements used in harvesting. But unless the ancient Minoans had a large machine to fix these two, that explanation simply does not hold water. It's not feasible. They're too large for any person to wield, even as a farm implement. Others seem to think that they were created as representations of weapons of the gods, and I could kind of see that, except that most times you see them as stone implements, or in pictures, something like that. I can't imagine somebody forging an item this big to have it sit on a wall. I'm sorry, that in ancient times when these things were created, people didn't have a lot of time to waste on frivolities. If you're going to make something that represents the weapon of the gods, make it out of stone. It's a heck of a lot easier. Make it out of, carve it into the side of a building or something. That's cool. I get that. Because the ancient Greeks were big into art and philosophy, and they had time for leisure stuff. I get that. But have a smith to create this thing? No, I'm sorry. That's a bit much for me to swallow. And the second one that I'm going to discuss is even worse. It's a cool artifact, and I'm not disparaging the artifact or the people who made it. I'm saying that particular explanation does not hold water with it. What I'm going to talk about here is the Norimitsu Odaichi. Most katanas, great swords, samurai great swords, are about a meter or so in length, and the Odachi, this particular one, is almost 4 times that long. It's 3.77 meters in length. This huge sword weighs in at 14.5 kilograms. A person could probably pick it up. A person is not going to wield it in battle. This thing is freaking huge. You couldn't wear it on your back. You'd have to have 2 people carry it to the position, and then one guy get one good swing, and then that's it. You're done. It's stupid. There is absolutely no way this sword could have been used by a normal-sized man. This thing is massive. It's just about 10 or 12 feet long. I'm just saying. I would imagine that ancient peoples could have created these as works of art, but that seems like an awful lot of work for an art piece. Somebody made the suggestion that they created this particular sword to prove their smithing capabilities, and I get that. In honor is a big thing in the ancient Japanese world, medieval Japan, but it's crazy. This sword was forged in the 15th century. That's in the 1400s. These items are functioning weapons. The Odaichi is a fully functioning weapon forged with folded metal, and it was tempered. To me, that says that someone intended to use this thing in battle. If you make a sword and you temper it, properly, yeah, you're intending to use that thing. Otherwise, it's an ornamental thing you hang on the wall. This thing was folded, made with folded metal. It was forged properly. It's tempered. It's even sharp. And someone intended, to me, that says someone intended to use it. It's not meant to hang on the wall. These weapons seem to have been intended for combat, which begs the question, by who? Stories abound from Patagonia to Europe to Russia to the Middle East. The Kandahar giant looked that one up. The Patagonian giants looked that one up. Africa, China. I mean, it's all over the world. They're reporting, even in the United States, they're reporting giants. The American Indians, the Lovelock Cave, go check that out. My point is, if these giants did exist, they had to, and in those times, they probably had weapons. Maybe these are holdovers. That's all I'm saying. And in the Minoan culture, an axe was a hell of a good weapon. So keep that in mind. And maybe this huge giant was made a samurai, which means he needed a samurai's weapon. Kalpa Vigraha. An artifact surfaced around 1959 or 1960, which turned modern science on its ear. Anthropologists and archaeologists have fostered a narrative which has been adopted by mainstream science. Human civilization, according to them, on this planet started about 6,000 years ago. Anything that doesn't fit this narrative is hidden, condemned, or criticized. The major museums all participate in this charade. Dates have been changed to make it seem like every artifact found fits in that 6,000 year time span. Information is coming out that exposes this charade. Check out my Unexplained Artifacts videos and Michael Cremo's, my video on Michael Cremo's book, Forbidden Archaeology. The book is fantastic. The truth is coming out. If you enjoy my content, it would really help me out if you would hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, share my content on social media, and post a comment or two. Remember, I welcome your comments, even if you disagree with me. If you enjoy a good book, check out my author page on Amazon. My pen name is H.L. Anderson. You can find all of my books there. I like to think I write good stories that make you think. I wrote a 3-book science fiction Western series called Drifters. I wrote, and I'm working on the 4th one. I wrote a fun story about a house in New Orleans where the monsters all hang out. It's called The House Off Farrago Road. I wrote a political fantasy called The Righteous President, and I'm working on the third book in a futuristic science fiction warfare series. The first one is Vanguard 1, the second one is Task Force Terminus. It's a study of humanity from an alien perspective. I hope you get them, and I hope you enjoy them. Now, back to the Kalpa Vigraha. The artifact I'm talking about now, the Kalpa Vigraha, is and I'm probably murdering these names, pardon me. Beg your forgiveness for that. The artifact is a brass idol of Lord Shiva. It was presented to representatives of the Central Intelligence Agency by a Tibetan monk. The monk impressed upon the CIA official of the importance of this item. The idol was housed in a heavy wooden chest with metal bindings and hinges and a metal lock. The chest and its contents, the golden idol of Lord Shiva, the brass idol of Lord Shiva, and an ancient manuscript, found its way to a CIA storeroom in Washington, D.C. Months later, both the idol and the manuscript were examined by specialists in the employ of the CIA. The idol was thousands of years old, but they could not verify its exact age. They tried to take scrapings from inside the crevices and date those scrapings, and that's fine. The problem is those scrapings could have moved. They could have been there for longer than the statue and then, settled in there. I'm just saying. The brass idol, they as I said, they could not get the exact age. The brass idol is approximately 5.3 centimeters tall. It depicts Lord Shiva sitting or resting on one knee. The figure holds a circular weapon, possibly the Sudarshan chakra from Hindu mythology. The manuscript is written in an ancient form of Hindu writing and references a method of increasing human longevity. Excuse me. Story surfaced wherein CIA researchers charged water with the idol and conducted experiments on human subjects. They monitored these human subjects for extended longevity beyond 100 years. Now, given our government's propensity for human experimentation, I'd buy that. That makes sense to me. The U.S. government is not afraid of human experimentation. Check out my Conspiracies Proven video about the Tuskegee experiments. Those things, that was just sick. Curious about the age of the object, CIA officials conducted radiocarbon tests on the wood in the box that it came in. The chest was dated to approximately 26,450 BC. That's 28,450 years old today. This box, and likely the idol itself, is the oldest Hindu object ever found. The pyramids of Egypt are only 4,600 years old. The pyramids of Peru are 4,700 years old. Stonehenge is about 5,000 years old. Spoken Sanskrit is far older than written Sanskrit. Spoken Sanskrit is roughly 7,000 years old. Cuneiform is only 5,400 years old. The Sumerian civilization is only 8,000 years old. Göbekli Tepe, and I did a video on that, is 11,500 years old. The oldest city in the world, Jericho, is 11,600 years old. The Kalpa Vigraha is far older than any of these. It's also significantly older than the legendary Hindu Kurukshetra war described in the Mahabharata. Yeah. Somehow the Kalpa Vigraha went missing. The manuscript was recovered from a microbiologist who had analyzed the charged water, but the idol's whereabouts remain unknown. After the manuscript was recovered, a series of no less than 4 mysterious deaths of microbiologists linked to the Kalpa Vigraha were confirmed. People died. Yeah. Were those deaths accidents, murders, or the result of some curse? Who knows? I myself find it odd that a manuscript dealing with the lengthening human life would be found in a box alongside an idol of Shiva the Destroyer. That would, in my opinion, be like going to Jeffrey Dahmer or Jack the Ripper for medical help. It just doesn't fit. Recently, The CIA circulated pictures of the Kalpa Vigraha worldwide and offered a huge cash reward for its recovery. To the best of my knowledge, my research suggests that the brass idol is still missing. Now, while the tale of the brass idol and the manuscript are both intriguing, I'd like to return your attention to the box. The box was 28,450 years old. Say the manuscript and the idol were in a Tibetan temple somewhere and they decided to give them to the CIA. Cool. They found some old box to put them in for transport. That box itself rewrites human history. Almost 26,500 years before Christ walked the earth, someone forged the corner bindings and the latch for this box and fashioned a container that stood the test of time. The box did not wither away or rot, nor was it petrified. Someone built a heck of a sturdy box in an era where humans were just learning to twist rope. They were just learning to bake clay figurines. Ancient Europeans had just invented saws, and smelting copper was 20,000 years in the future. This box is an out-of-place artifact, an oopart, if you will. Regardless of the idol or the manuscript, this box rewrites history. I'm not knocking the radiocarbon dating of the items. What I'm saying is that the history we're being taught is just wrong. Michael Cremo wrote the book Forbidden Archaeology, and the more I learn, the more I'm starting to agree with Dr. Cremo. I think he's right. We're being lied to, people. Our ancestors were far more advanced, far earlier than the mainstream science wants us to believe. Now, the question becomes, why are we being lied to? What's the reason and what is their agenda? Science is supposed to follow the facts. When science hides facts so that their narrative can be pushed, that's not following the facts. That's a cover-up. That's not science. That's a cover-up. Now the question becomes, what are they covering up? There's all kinds of conspiracy theories out there, aliens or God knows what else. But there's a ton of different conspiracy theories about who's really running the world and this and that. Maybe this is tied in with that. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But the fact that we don't know, and the fact that we do know, scientists are hiding facts rather than putting it out there and saying, okay, now let's find out what this is. Okay, scientists are supposed to discover facts and figure out all the nuances of them. Instead, they're hiding objects. They're hiding facts. That's not science. That's a cover-up. Now the question we got to ask is, what are they covering up?
There's some objects that are being dug up in South Africa called Klerksdorp, Klerksdorp, Klerksdorp spheres. Over the last few decades, miners in South Africa have been digging these things up. They're odd-looking spheres. They're about an inch or so in diameter. They're composed of a solid bluish metal with white flecks. Some of these have 3 parallel grooves etched around the center. Some are solid metal, others are hollow and filled with a spongy white substance. We still don't know what that is. The thing you got to understand is the rock that these spheres are being found in is Precambrian, which puts it at about 2.8 billion years old. It's ridiculous. These things are manufactured, but they're in rock that's 2.8 billion years old. There's no way that could be. This is an unexplained artifact. They all are. And these things keep popping up. There's lots of these spheres. Some geologists claim that these spheres are naturally formed, but if you look at them, they're definitely manufactured. Somebody manufactured these. Those little grooves around them are etched in. I mean, that's. I could see if they were scratched up. That's one thing. These are perfect around the center. The controversy of the origin of these things, it just goes on and on and on. These things, if you've not seen pictures of them, look at them. Go online and look up Klerksdorp spheres and check them out. These are ridiculous. There is no explanation for this. They're in rock that's 2.8 billion years old. Humans weren't even on the planet back then. I don't even know what was. That may predate a lot of dinosaurs. So, you know, if you get a chance, check these out. They're fascinating. The literature on these is very limited, so you're not going to be able to find out a whole lot of information. But just looking at them, you can tell they're manufactured. Somebody built these. Somebody formed these. Okay. I don't know what else to say. This is it's ridiculous. These are unexplained artifacts. There is no reason for these things to be there. So if you get a chance, look them up.
Moon tablets. Wet the old whistle there. For those of you who don't know, the Chinese have at least one exploratory rover on the moon, a robotic machine to explore the moon. This one's called Chang'e 4, the Jade Rabbit 4. I hope I'm saying that right. The Chang'e 4 rover is checking out the moon, and it's doing its thing. It's running around. It flies a little bit here and there, driving around, and it's, taking samples, and it's doing what a rover does. Well, this particular rover, the Jade Rabbit 4, was flying around the crater von Karman to examine the soil on the other side. And according to official sources, when it landed, it fell into a shallow pit. Inside this pit, the rover filmed rectangular stone tablets all over the pit, all over the bottom of the pit. These tablets had markings that looked a lot like hieroglyphics. This is the story we're getting. Now, keep in mind the Chinese aren't really giving with truth. They're communists. But we're getting these stories from an international source. So I don't know if this is real or not, but I'm giving you what we were told. The photos are being studied in depth by not only the CNSA, but also by a number of other scholars. If this proves to be true, this could redefine space travel, human space travel. If these tablets have hieroglyphics on them like they think, somebody a long time ago in ancient times was flying around in space. Be it humans or aliens or whoever, we don't know. But somebody was. Because those tablets, if they had hieroglyphics on them like they think, Earth has hieroglyphics. You know what I'm saying? It's either they were transplanted from one to the other. And the ancient Egyptians were using hieroglyphics. So I'm thinking maybe they were taught. I don't know. I have no idea. But my contention is something's up with this. If this is real, then it needs to be investigated, and it will literally redefine what we know about human space travel, human history. There are many theories. One of the most prevalent ones is that someone took these tablets to the moon in ancient times, which means somebody in human history in ancient past was capable of space travel. Another theory is that these are alien messages to us or to others. It's like a mailbox, for lack of a better word. Somebody dropped these tablets off and somebody else is supposed to come get them. Either they haven't gotten them yet or they forgot about them for whatever reason. If these tablets are real, it literally means that someone traveled to the moon in ancient times, and it's a big deal, folks. It's a real big deal. I don't know if I actually want this to be true or not. If it is true, that means somebody's been lying to us for a damn long time. If it's not true, that means the Chinese are lying to us. Take your pick. Morrison chain. For those of you who have not heard of this, this is an astounding
story. If you've not heard about it, let me regale it to you. Back in 1891, Mrs. S.W. Culp was breaking a lump of coal so she could put it in the scuttle. Inside the lump of coal, she found an antique gold chain. It was small with quaint workmanship, and the coal had originated, and it was because it's not like, you know, there was a pile of coal and it was mixed in with it. No, there was a lump of coal. She broke it open and the chain was inside. Okay, this happens a lot more than people are willing to admit. I got some more coming up too, so check those out. The coal had originated from a mine in southern Illinois and was surveyed at between 260 and 320 million years old. So 260 million years ago, somebody dropped this chain, and then the coal formed around it, and they found it. Then she found it in a lump of coal later. That's what happened. And if it happened once or twice, you know, that's just an oddity. It's happening a lot, and I got some more videos coming up. Like I said, this is not. I mean, this is just weird. This does not fit the scientific narrative. It blows the scientific narrative right out of the water. 260 million years ago, human beings did not exist on this planet, and this, in my opinion, leaves three options. Time travelers dropped the chain 260 million years ago. They went back to do their thing, and somebody dropped it and didn't realize it, and they get back, oh, I lost my chain. You know, well, too late now, you know. Or aliens dropped it, because we know they're real now. The Pentagon has admitted it. Go check out some of my other videos. Or, what's more than likely is the evolutionary narrative is wrong. Humans existed on the Earth far earlier than science will admit. A man named Michael Cremo wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology, and in that he states that museum personnel have been caught changing the dates on artifacts to fit the current narrative, and that's wrong. Science should go where the facts lead. You should follow the facts to the truth. You shouldn't make your story and then change facts to fit that story. That's not science. I don't know what the hell it is, but it ain't science. And so you find stuff like this chain that's 260 million years in coal. It's not right. Something's wrong. Their official narrative is wrong somehow. We don't know how, but it's wrong somehow. Either humans existed far earlier on this planet than what they're admitting, than what they're willing to admit, or somebody got some explaining to do. You know what I'm saying? Where's the time travel device? I'd like to see that. The Nampa figurine, N-A-M-P-A, Nampa figurine. You're going to love this one. In 1889, there were workers in Nampa, Idaho, right here in the United States. They were digging a well, and because of the depth that facilitated them using a steam drill. At a depth of 300 feet, a small object was spat forth from the steam pump. This figurine is about 1.5 inches long. It depicts a female form, very remarkable for the perfection of its skilled carving. Striking in detail, including details like clothing and jewelry. So this was an intricately carved figurine, 1.5 inches long, and it depicted a woman, very well formed, well sculpted, crafted. And the carving included clothing and jewelry. Now, the figurine was studied and found to have quartz grains that had been cemented by iron molecules, hinting at a vast age. Okay? The rock depth at which this was found is estimated to be 2 million years old. So 2 million years ago, somebody carved this thing and dropped it. And then it, the over the centuries, sediment buried it. That's the official story. That's what we're supposed to. I mean that's the official archaeological stand on it. Now, here's the problem. That doesn't fit. 2 million years ago, human beings weren't carving stuff like that. They certainly didn't have jewelry to that, carvings with jewelry on it 2 million years ago. And I would hazard a guess that human beings weren't exactly human beings 2 million years ago. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't fit the archaeological and scientific narrative that they want you to believe. There's a man named Michael Cremo. I did a video on him called, he wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. Scientists evidently do not know everything. They want you to think they do, but they don't. The Nampa figurine does not fit the official timeline of human evolution on this planet. It should not exist. In his book, Forbidden Archaeology, Michael Cremo outlines a lot of other stuff that doesn't fit. So if you get the opportunity, go get his book. I watched a video on. I have not read his book, but I've watched a video on it on YouTube. He did a good lecture, and check him out. I got to say this. When he speaks, he kind of drones, but the information that he gives is prime. I mean, it's very interesting. One of the things that he mentioned that's along the same lines as this is during the gold rush back in the 1840s, 1850s in California. They would dig into the side of a mountain, and in the mountain they would find artifacts, bones, pottery, that kind of thing. And at depths that shouldn't be. These mountains are pristine, and nobody's ever touched them, but they find stuff in there that shouldn't be. So when archaeologists back then would present their findings, museums would change the numbers, things like that. That has happened apparently in the past. That's one of the things that Michael Cremo talks about. So you got to be careful when you're dealing with ancient artifacts and things, because if it doesn't fit the narrative, it's like I did a video about the mammoth bones, where they had the soft tissue found inside the mammoth bones that shouldn't exist. Well, nobody's talking about that either. So just be aware that there are some things going on here in scientific investigations that are not on the up and up. You should follow where the facts lead. You shouldn't make the facts fit your narrative. Okay, that's not science. Science is you follow the facts until you come to the truth. Science, it does not change the facts to fit the narrative. You don't create the story and then try to find facts to back it up. That's a theory. It's not the fact. You see, you make a theory and then try to prove or disprove the theory. You don't make the fact and then try to fit stuff into it. No, I'm not talking about marijuana. When I say Oklahoma pot, I'm not talking about marijuana. I'm talking about an iron pot. Back in 1912, in Oklahoma, a small iron pot was found inside a large piece of coal. So the coal was there, they broke it open, and inside there was a pot. It was found by a worker at the municipal electric plant in Thomas, Oklahoma. I got it wrote down. Let me read it. He had a chunk of coal too big to use, so he broke it with a sledgehammer. The iron pot fell out, leaving its impression, its mold, in the piece of coal. So it did come from inside the coal. It wasn't just in the bin buried under coal. It was inside a big piece. And another employee witnessed this event. So this isn't just him saying it. There's another person there. He had a witness. All right. Coal came from the mines at Wilburton, Oklahoma, and the coal in this mine is surveyed at 312 million years old. So 312 million years ago, somebody made an iron pot and dropped it, and the coal formed around it over the centuries. That's what happened. There's nothing else you can get from that. This isn't so-and-so said such and such. The guy had a witness. There was another person there who witnessed what happened. So, this isn't hearsay. It's not opinion. This is a fact. It did in fact happen. 312 million years ago, who was running around smelting ore and casting or forging iron pots and so they could be dropped into, and laid out to be embedded in coal later. Who did that? Something is wrong with the scientific narrative. They're telling us that human beings didn't exist more than, I want to say, 5 or 8, 10,000 years ago, something like that, 20,000 years ago. But then but they find new stuff, like, for example, Göbekli Tepe, which pushes the narrative back a little bit. The dawn of man gets pushed back a little bit more. And now they find stuff like this. 312 million years ago, somebody dropped a pot. Somebody forged a pot, cast it or whatever, and then dropped it. Do the math. Something's wrong. Something's seriously wrong. Michael Cremo may be onto something with his book Forbidden Archaeology, because you got to check out that book. According to him, he makes some weird claims that say the museum officials, museum personnel are altering the dates to fit the narrative, and that's not science. You should follow the facts, and where the facts go, that's where the truth is. That's not what they're doing. According to him, they have a narrative that they want to put forward, and they're changing the facts to fit that narrative. That's not science. Okay? Stuff like this just blows the official narrative right out of the water, and it shouldn't be. Okay? Scientists should look at stuff like this and go, well, okay, we were wrong. Let's figure out what the right story is, what the facts are. But they're not doing it. They're hiding stuff like this. A scientist looks at something like this and says, oh no, that can't happen. It's right there. 2 people. One guy broke it open and the pot was inside, and somebody else witnessed it. You gonna call them liars? I'm just saying. If it's a hoax, it's a damn hell of a good hoax. I'm just saying. Something's wrong with the official scientific narrative. And we got to figure out what it is. Because we're finding things that we shouldn't find. These unexplained artifacts. I happened to look at, unexplained artifacts in coal. I typed it in and a list came up. I'm doing some more later, but my point is, there's a lot of shit that shouldn't be. According to if the official narrative was real, there's a lot of shit that shouldn't be, and it is.
I'm titling this one Ooh Parts. Okay, I started doing unexplained artifacts videos a while back because there are real physical things, objects, being found in places where there's no reason that they should be. A few examples here. The London hammer was found in London, Texas. It was a steel hammer, a steel hammerhead, encased in stone, and the part of the wooden handle that remained had petrified, so it had been there for a long time. The Russian UFO tooth wheel. It takes a long time for wood to petrify, by the way. Look that up. The Russian UFO tooth wheel is made of an unknown metal element and was found when a lump of coal broke open. Coal deposits are millions of years old. That thing had been in there a long time. A small iron pot was found inside a lump of coal in Oklahoma in 1812. In 1891, a woman who was breaking up a lump of coal for her scuttle, and inside the coal she found an antique forged gold chain. It was dubbed the Morrison chain. In 1851, an article in the Scientific American outlined an object that appeared to be a silver zinc vase inlaid with silver, and it was found embedded in solid sedimentary rock 15 feet deep. That means it had been there for several 100,000 years at least. The Qinghai pipes, Qinghai, Qinghai pipes, that were found in a pyramid in China. These pipes lead to a nearby saltwater lake. These pipes were smelted 150,000 years ago, and 8% of the alloy that they were made from is unidentifiable. And there's many more. All these ones I've listed and a bunch more I've done videos on, so go check those out. Now, since I started doing these videos, I ran across the acronym OOPARTS, OOPARTS. It means out of place artifacts. And it's a common term these days. I didn't know about it when I started those videos, but that's what it means. There's a man named Michael Cremo. He wrote a book, and I've talked about it in some other videos. He wrote a book titled Forbidden Archaeology. My wife bought it for me. It's in there in the other room. It's really good. If you want to get it, you can. It's a very difficult read because this guy's not an author. He doesn't write stories or anything like I do. He's a scientist. When he writes something, it sounds a lot like a technical journal. So it's a difficult read. But the information in there is, oh my God, ridiculous. It is just, it's absolutely astounding what people have found. This book talks about all manner of these ooparts and other facts that disprove the current mainstream archaeological record. The gist of all of this is that science is not what we're being told. Scientists are lying to us. And by scientists, I mean archaeologists, anthropologists, botanists. They're lying to us. Scientists have a specific theory and a specific narrative, and anything that doesn't fit that theory or narrative is ignored, buried, and or ridiculed. Now, if you don't believe me, I noticed a similarity recently between the mainstream archaeologists that I'm talking about here and the scientists of today. These scientists push the transgender bullshit on kids. Scientists have to pursue truth. They have to pursue the truth. If not, they can be as dangerous as any dictator or politician or terrorists. Any scientist who is not pursuing the truth is not being a scientist. They're being an activist. People believe in scientists, and if a doctor or a virologist says something, they take it to heart. We're only now learning about all the lies Dr. Anthony Fauci fed us. If he could lie to us, anybody could. This guy had a public ear. This guy was in Washington. He had the ear of the president, and he was feeding them lies. We now know for a fact they were lies. Those lies are coming out in Congress. Watch C-SPAN if you don't believe me. My contention with all of this is there are artifacts being found that we can't explain. They're being found in places that they shouldn't be. They're being found inside coal, embedded in the coal. They're not like somebody dropped it on top of a coal bin. Oh, look, I found that. No, we're talking they have a lump of coal. They're breaking it up to put it in a fire, and this is embedded inside the coal. There's only one way that can happen, people. Okay? It was there when the coal formed around it. That's the only way that happens. Okay? Now, people can argue that left and right, but that's how that happens. If an item was found once, maybe a half dozen times, maybe, but there's hundreds of these things. I've done lots of videos. Go check them out. And my videos are not the entire gambit of these findings. They're finding stuff that has no business existing, and they're finding them in places they have no business being. Who was here millions of years ago to drop a gold chain into a lump of coal, or to drop it so that later on coal could form around it? It's ridiculous. It's a forged gold chain called the Morrison chain. Go check it out. My contention is there's a lot about this stuff that we're not being told. Scientists are obviously lying to us. And because most of these scientists work on grants and stuff, we pay for it. We're paying them to lie to us. Something's wrong here, people, and it needs to fucking stop. This one's crazy weird. Okay? Any of you who are World War II buffs, you're going to love this. Parallel universe coin. A construction team in Mexico found a coin that they simply could not explain. They were digging in the ground, they found it. Okay. They took it to the university and got it examined, and this coin defied explanation. They've had many people examine it, and people are saying it's got to be a hoax. It's got to be a hoax. But there's nothing to point in the chemical analysis or anything like that. There's nothing to say it's fake. So we have to take these gentlemen's word, because you can't simply call somebody a liar unless you can prove they're lying. Innocent until proven guilty, right? All right.
This coin has a bunch of Spanish inscriptions. The first one says Nueva Almania, which is New Germany. The second one says Allies in einer Nation. Oh, excuse me. Let me reread this. Alles in einer Nation, all in one nation. The last one says Independencia y Libertad, which is independence and freedom. The coin has markings exactly like those of Nazi Germany of World War II. On one side, it's got a German eagle with a swastika. On the flip side, it has the Iron Cross. Okay? Now, Mexico has a storied past with Nazi Germany. At one point, the Nazis were trying to get Mexico to invade the United States. And that's documented fact. Mexico didn't do it. The American intelligence, I think, as I understand it, American intelligence found out about it, and of course the Mexicans didn't do it because they weren't bad guys. But Mexico does have a storied past with Nazis, and the Mexicans aren't bad guys. That's not what I'm saying, but that did in fact happen. So the problem with that is this coin is dated from 2029. Yeah. World War II ended in 1945. You see what I'm saying? There's a big discrepancy there. Experts are at a loss to explain this coin, and to me, that's just freaking weird. If they were minting coins, somebody in Mexico was minting coins that was pro-Nazi or whatever, why would they put a date of 2029 on it? That doesn't make any sense. If somebody in Mexico was pro-Nazi and minting coins like this, I could see these inscriptions, and I could see the German eagle with the swastika and the Iron Cross. I could see all that. But the date is the one that hinges, because none of that makes any sense then. None of it does. There is a physicist with a theory that alternate dimensions exist, and if that's the case, then and there's evidence to back this up. This guy's not a crackpot, but in one of these alternate dimensions, apparently there's an infinite number of them. In one of them, maybe Germany did win World War II. I don't know, but if that's the case, maybe one of these coins came from there. Who are we to say? We don't know. All I do know is this coin does in fact exist. It's dated 2029, and there is no explaining it. It's ridiculous. I've been trying to do this video for some time, but I keep getting sidetracked on other things. And I finally found the information, and I did a little bit of research. And you can research this on your own. I'm talking about the Qinghai pipes, and I hope I'm saying that right. It's spelled Qinghai. Qinghai. Qinghai? I don't know. Anyway, it's Chinese, so the Chinese pipes. In a mysterious pyramid in China's Qinghai province near Mount Baigong, Baigong, are 3 caves filled with pipes leading to a nearby saltwater lake. There are also pipes under the lake and on the under the lake bed and on the shore. So there's pipes everywhere, apparently. Some sort of a water system going up into these caves, into the pyramid. These pipes are various sizes, some as small as a toothpick. So they range in all kinds of different sizes. And dating by the Beijing Institute of Geology determined that these pipes were smelted 150,000 years ago. Which, if it's true, would put a hell of a kink in the narrative that the archaeologists and anthropologists want to keep feeding us. That's a hell of a kink in a weird story to begin with. These pipes' composition is ferric oxide, silicon dioxide, and calcium oxide, with 8% of it unidentifiable. We don't know what it is. 8% of this of these pipes are unidentifiable, which means that, to me, that says that's not even an earthly element, because you can break it down into its elements and figure out what it's made of. Well, the problem is 8% of it we don't know what it is. Well, if we know all the elements on the periodic table, it's either something we haven't discovered yet, or it ain't from Earth. The theories about these pipes' origins include an advanced prehistoric civilization, which would explain a lot. Aliens, which the Pentagon and the Navy are now talking about, or time travelers, which I did a video on technophobe, time travel. I also did one just last week. I think it was the Layman's Guide to Temporal Theory. I think it was something like that. Go check those out. But regardless of all that, the fact that these things are dated at 150,000 years ago blows the official narrative out of the water. Michael Cremo wrote a book called Forbidden Archaeology. I have yet to read that book, but I'm going to. I want to read that book. I really want to read that book. I saw a good lecture on it by him. He kind of drones a bit, monotone, as it were. But the information is good, and it's very interesting. According to him, there's a lot of these artifacts that people are finding that don't fit the official narrative. And if that's the case, and if all these artifacts are real, somebody's got some explaining to do, because according to the book, museums are changing the dates that archaeologists are finding. They'll find an object at a depth that nobody's ever been to before, but this object in order to be there, had to be formed at that time, and then the layers of the earth formed over it, in sediment and whatever. Well, according to him, museums have been caught changing the dates to fit the official narrative. So if that's the case, somebody's got some serious explaining to do, because the truth is the truth. All we want is the truth. We can handle the truth. If the official narrative is wrong, we got to find out what the right one is, because the truth is the truth. And if we're being lied to intentionally, why? Is somebody making money off of this? Somebody didn't want to be discredited, or somebody hiding something? We don't know. But like I said, all we want is the truth. I enjoy doing unexplained phenomena, unexplained artifacts, things like that, because there's a lot that's going on in the world that we don't know. We don't understand. There's things that are going on that need to be explained. And one of the things that really irritates me is when a scientist says, "Oh, I know this happened for a fact," and then later on, when their facts are disproven, they don't cop to it. That irritates me. There's a man named Michael Cremo. This big example here is a man named Michael Cremo who wrote a book. I want to say it's called Forbidden Archaeology, and he's talking about reports of things found, artifacts and things that are found in digs that shouldn't be. Well, in the book, he also states that there have been instances where museum officials will change the date on a reported finding to make it fit their narrative, rather than go with the official dating of the archaeologist himself, that kind of thing. And that irritates me, because the facts should lead to the truth. You should follow the facts. That's science. You don't look at the fact and say, "Oh, that doesn't fit, so we'll change the fact to fit the story." No, that's not science. Science is you follow the facts to the truth. That's how that should work. Here's a serious example here of a clear example. There was a man in Russia, I want to say it was in Vladivostok, and he was stoking a fire with a shovel. He had some coal, he was shoveling coal into the fire. One of the pieces of coal fell and broke open. Inside the piece of coal, he found a little piece of metal. It is reminiscent of a gear wheel. It is composed of an unknown metal element. They theorize it's some kind of aluminum, but is definitely artificial in origin. Somebody made that. It's man-made. It's not natural. Scientists have dated this object at 300 million years old. It appears to be part of an automobile-like vehicle, maybe some sort of a ground vehicle, but 300 million years ago, wasn't nobody driving no Ford or a Dodge or an Isuzu or anything like that. So, you know, it's unexplained. It can't exist according to the scientific theory, the scientific paradigm. It doesn't fit. I love stories like this. The theories that are abound so far are: one, a time traveler dropped it off. He accidentally dropped it and it fell off the vehicle or whatever, and it got, became embedded in the coal over millions of years. The next theory that I liked was aliens dropped it off millions of years ago and it got embedded in the coal. The scientists are claiming that it's faulty dating of the object. Somehow or other they got the date wrong. Well, the problem with that is, how long does it take to make coal? If the item is in the coal formed around it. So whatever was inside there had to be there 300 or however many millions of years ago. So that's a valid way of determining it, right? How long does it take for coal to form? Well, again, 300 million years ago, humans didn't exist. So that, to me, right there, that disproves what the scientists are saying, because somebody 300 million years ago, if we're going to, I'm going to use that 300 million year date because I don't know exactly how long it takes for coal to form, but somebody 300 million years ago had dropped this little piece of metal and the coal formed around it. But it shouldn't exist. This is an unexplained artifact. They call it the Russian UFO tooth wheel because they don't know where it came from, but they found it embedded in a piece of coal. Not as in, somebody stuck it in a piece of coal, but it was, the coal broke open and it was inside. So, yeah. Take from that what you will.
This is on the Sudan tool shed. I happened across an article the other day, and it's not, I had never heard of this. I did not hear about this until I read this article. Apparently a recent gold rush in Sudan in eastern Africa has led to open pit mining, where gold hunters have stumbled on a trove of stone tools. These include Acheulean Acheulean hand axes, cleavers, and other tools. Now, stone tools in Africa are not new. They've been found in virtually every nation and in various depths. What makes these different is that the layers of soil around the tools are at least 700,000 years old. Some researchers they believe that it could be up to 1 million years old. This puts Homo erectus in this area twice as far back as previously thought. Now, there's a book out there, and I tout this book, oh my God, every chance I get, because it's wonderful. The author is Dr. Michael Cremo. The book is called Forbidden Archaeology. I've talked about this in other videos. Cremo makes the assertion that the official story of man on this planet is hogwash. He further asserts that mainstream scientists have participated in this lie, even to the point of altering dates of archaeological finds and different artifacts, things like that. They alter the dates to better fit their narrative. Now, I've heard more than one scientist say that, so I tend to believe it. If Michael Cremo is correct, humans have been on this planet for millions of years longer than we have been told. This new find seems to substantiate his assertions. the thing that gets me is anytime any scientist comes up with anything that doesn't fit the official narrative, that scientist is blackballed. They're scoffed, laughed at. You know, oh, he's a tinfoil hat guy. He's crazy. You know, that kind of thing. How are we supposed to know the truth if when you find new evidence, the scientists don't follow the evidence? That's how science works. You follow the evidence. You don't make an assumption and then laugh at new evidence. Okay? If scientists have lied to us about our history, and we know for a fact they've lied to us about COVID and about UFOs and all kinds of other shit, what else are they lying to us about? The part that really, really bugs me about this is we're told one thing. I've done a slew of videos, unexplained artifacts, unexplained megalithic sites, unexplained this, unexplained that. And science is not only not trying to, the scientists, are not only trying to not explain it, they're actively trying to hide new evidence which may explain it. It's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. They've lied to us about so many things that we know about. COVID, they've lied to us about that. The medical professionals lied to us about the masks. They lied to us about the vaccines. They lied to us about all kinds of stuff. Essentially, what it boils down to is, what have they told us the truth about? If they've lied about so many other things, what have they actually told the truth about? You see what I'm saying? It's crazy. They found all these tools, and these tools will put humans in Sudan between 700,000 and 1 million years ago. That blows the entire narrative of human history out of the water. And nobody's talking about it. It's fucking crazy. The Sumerian Kings List. A lot of times I do unexplained artifacts on, like, they'll find a bell or some other artifact, some manufactured good inside a coal deposit, actually embedded in the coal. And that's weird enough. But there's a place in the Middle East that they're excavating. They're still doing archaeological research there. This is the Sumerian Kings List. This is archaeologists want to use the Kings List as a historical record, but they can't use it all because some of it defies their narrative. So it's kind of a conundrum there for them. Let me just start the thing. The Sumerians occupied southern Mesopotamia. Their civilization flourished between 4100 to 1750 BC. That's, if you're counting years, that's 6100 years ago through 3770 years ago. We know much about their civilization through their records that they left. They have these little stone things. I forget what they're called. You roll them out and they're historical records. Sumer was never a single country, but instead comprised a region of city-states, each with its own king. One of the stone records that they left behind was a comprehensive list of each city-state and their individual rulers, their respective rulers. The Sumerians left behind thousands of records like this. Most of them are business records. So-and-so sold such and such to so-and-so, or so-and-so traded such and such to so-and-so for such and such, that kind of thing. And they're accepted by archaeological scholars as historical records, because it's just business records, right? Some of them were categorized as mythology, and they were set aside. I did a video on Sumerian astronomy. Go check that out. This King's List was accepted as part of the Sumerian historical record and lumped in with the business records above. That is, until the scholars began an in-depth study of the tablet. Now, there are scholars who dismiss the tablet as mythology. The problem with that is the rest of the tablet is still accepted as historical record. So the archaeological scholars accept part of a tablet as fact, but dismiss part of it as mythological stories. See the problem? The part that confounds these scholars is that according to the tablet, a number of Sumerian rulers had unnaturally long reigns. Some of these include, let me try to get these names right, Alulim, A-L-U-L-I-M. This guy ruled for 28,800 years. Alalyar, A-L-A-L-J-A-R, Alalyar. This guy ruled for 36,000 years. There are 3 kings that reigned for 108,000 years. There's a guy named Enmenluana, E-N-M-E-N-L-U-A-N-A, Enmenluana. He ruled for 43,200 years. 2 kings ruled for 64,800 years. And there's more. It's just, humans don't live that long. That's what I'm saying. The tablet refers to these kings as, quote, gods, and mentions that the kingship, quote, descended from heaven. This record is used to teach college courses on Sumeria, but many academians omit the long-lived kings from the course. So they're cherry-picking data. To date, no reasonable explanation for this disparity has been offered. I understand people are reading something and they go, oh yeah, this is a historical record, and then they find something they don't like, and suddenly it's mythology. You see what I'm saying? It's crap. We are being. I did a video on a book called Forbidden Archaeology. You really have to read that book. It's written by a man named Michael Cremo. He's a scientist. You got to read the book. This guy is not. He's not an author. He doesn't write books. He makes money off his books. So I got to say he makes money off his books. He writes books for a living, but he's a scientist. So his books read like scientific technical journals. They're kind of hard to get through. But the information in there will just blow your mind. You've got to read the book. It's called Forbidden Archaeology. We are being lied to about our past. There are things in the historical records that archaeologists and anthropologists are finding that do not fit the narrative that we were taught in school. It's that simple. You have to go and read that book. This Sumerian kings list is one aspect of that. I've done video after video on unexplained artifacts. This is one of the big ones. That's all I'm saying.